Hi Rachel,
Hello.
how are you?
Hi. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, not bad at all. Glad you managed to get on okay. So, I was just going to start explaining to everyone that's watching or maybe watching later that we're going to start doing some live chats here on Instagram just to keep people up to date with the consultation. And it'll be a mix of chatting to some organisations, survivors, and people like yourself who are on the team who's actually making it happen. So I'm guessing, Rachel, all your followers are going to know you from all your amazing food creations. That's how I first knew you, and I actually only clicked after we'd started up the Instagram that who you were. So tell us a bit more. Tonight you're here obviously on a different platform, and today you're here about your work with Survivors' Voices and Community Justice. So first of all, tell us about your daytime job, your role with Community Justice Scotland.
So my role with Community Justice Scotland, I started in November 2020. So my role is quite niche. I focus solely on restorative justice. So, put very simply, my role is to support and monitor the delivery of the Scottish Government's Restorative Justice Action Plan. And it was at the Restorative Justice Stakeholder Group that I met with Ashley Scotland. And that essentially is how I've become involved with Survivors' Voices.
Okay, so what is it you're doing with Survivors' Voices?
So my role with Survivors Voices, the title is Independent Facilitator. So my role solely focuses on facilitating the information sessions. So we're on week 4 of the Restorative Justice information sessions. So they are basically there to kind of open up the concept and the idea of restorative justice. It's there to allow people to gain a basic understanding and awareness of restorative justice before they complete the consultation survey. So the sessions are there not only for survivors to attend, but also the organisations that support them. So we're on week 4, as I said, and we've completed 11 sessions so far.
Wow.
They last an hour and a half long. And some of the kind of content that we cover, we look at restorative justice as a concept. We've got Alva Griffith, who has dispelled some of the misconceptions around restorative justice. She has provided a number of her clips, and we have used them to dispel some of the misconceptions. We then kind of talk about the Scottish Government's commitment to have restorative justice available across Scotland by 2023. So we speak about that. We then come to the kind of brains behind the consultation itself, so that's Ashley Scotland. She is the brains behind this. She, I think a lot of people have already seen this from some of the social media that's been around, that she was at a meeting and somebody had said, we will not have restorative justice available for the survivors that use our centre, and it was at that point when she investigated restorative justice a bit further, became a member of the stakeholder group, and she speaks, quite rightly about her choice being removed from her. So I guess that then highlighted that there's a huge gap in terms of we don't actually know in Scotland what survivors want in terms of restorative justice. We don't know if they're aware of restorative justice. And, there isn't a service right now that exists for survivors of domestic and sexual abuse. So I guess, she's been key in providing a platform for survivors to have their voice, but not just in the traditional sense of sending out a survey, actually making sure that people understand what they're asking and what they're answering to, and also giving survivors, the question and answer sessions, so opportunities to ask questions as well. So my role is focusing solely on the information session. So we've got 2 more weeks to go. And yeah, they've been well attended, and we've got some interesting feedback that I can share from you about some of the stuff that we speak about. We speak a lot about language at the beginning,
Yeah.
and we get these to feedback what they think about different terminologies that we might use. We use terms survivor, we use terms victim, we use terms person harmed. So interestingly, language is very personal to the individual, and we highlight that. And a lot of people, most, I would say anecdotally from the feedback people are giving from these sessions, is survivor is the kind of chosen term for most people, but not everybody. And we know that from Alva, who identifies as a victim, so the concept of language itself, you know, you could talk about it all day and all night, you know. It's a very interesting subject. So we speak about that and the importance of language and how it can be very labeling as well. Throughout the sessions, we also move in to speak about, there's lots of animations within the restorative justice session, and we also speak about restorative justice as a process. You know, the process from the beginning to the kind of end, if you like. And then we look at some real life case stories of restorative justice. And I think these are what are most impactful. You know, Alva's story, the stories from the charity Why Me in England, who very kindly allowed us to use their quotes. So I think when you read some, for me anyway, when I read the kind of individual case stories, that's when you kind of understand the benefits that restorative justice can bring to people's lives. So I guess the consultation is finding out essentially from the population of survivors of domestic and sexual abuse, is this something that they want? Instead of it being organisations or professionals or policy leaders or whatever making that assumption based on research or whatever that might be, or their personal opinions.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense, doesn't it? Because obviously, while this is facilitated by Thriving Survivors, it is called Survivors' Voices because it is about giving the survivors voices, and whether they want that to be confidential or they want to use the platform to actually be seen and be heard, it's all about them having their voice. So are you finding on the sessions, is it a mix of survivors and companies and organisations, or who are you seeing coming mainly on these sessions?
So I would say it's a mix. Now, not everybody discloses where they're from on the information session, and that's the key, one of the key components of the information sessions. There is no obligation for you to put your name attached to your Zoom. We do the sessions through Zoom. You know, nobody has to turn on their cameras. Nobody needs to say where they're from. But people do, you know, people do it right on the Padlet. And we use like this electronic Padlet kind of wall where people can put comments on. So people do disclose that they are survivors. People do also share what organisations they're from as well. So we've had some organisations from Rape Crisis. We've had organisations from, oh God, I actually can't remember some
too many, isn't there?
Yeah. There's been a few, but there's been some really interesting comments put on the Padlet. But as I say, it's not really about the information sessions. For me anyway, is not necessarily about finding out who is actually at the session. It's more about allowing them to come in and anonymously sit and just get the information that they require and disseminate that wherever it's appropriate. So if they are from an organisation, we would hope that they would be disseminating that to the people that use their services, you know, and if they are a survivor themselves, that they're you know, maybe having a look at that survey to see what it looks like. Is it something that they want to fill in, and do they know of anybody else where, you know, where that might be appropriate to share through a support group or whatever.
Well, that's the thing as well, isn't it? It's not just necessarily about those that are sitting in the information session. It's quite unique actually to be able to offer that, to allow people to learn before they have to do it, or don't have to do it, they choose to do it, or it gives them the option once you have more information. And it's about spreading the word, isn't it? So obviously we've got the panel session, we've got the information sessions, and also the group sessions as well have kept going. And why do you think it's so important that we're doing everything we can to share this?
You know, I think it's really important. You know, we've got an opportunity here, you know, you know, this needs to be far reaching. And I would actually add, you know, to anybody that watches this live that we're doing just now, and I know it'll be pre-recorded for people to watch later on, please take, you know, 2 seconds to go on to Survivors' Voices. You know, please share one of the stories of the posts onto your stories, because I know it sounds, you know, cheesy, because it, you know, but if you share it, you know, there might be one person that sees that you're giving an opportunity to have a voice. And I suppose, you know, there are, you know, organisations out there that point blank think it shouldn't be available for survivors of domestic and sexual abuse. And this comes from a good place. You know, support organisations are trying to support the people who use their services. However, we are also stripping people from choice. So I suppose that's why we need this to be as far-reaching as possible, and that is the point of the Q&A sessions, that is the point of the information sessions and all of the social media that is around it, and also about the focus group platforms that have come from that as well. So anybody that's watching, I've just seen the palette prints there. He is an old friend from school, so he has a lot of followers and he does amazing makeup as well. So if he would share that, you know, I'm sure we would reach a lot of people. So yeah, thank you, the palette prints.
Well, this is it. I think there's you never know. You just don't know what goes on behind closed doors. You don't know people's history or their personal experiences. And when I came on board with this, I knew nothing about restorative justice. I'd heard the term. But for me, I can't comment. I have not been through what the survivors have been through. So it's so key that if everyone shares this, if everyone lets people know, if everyone shares one post, the vast number of people that it could help, or at least give the opportunity to, is really important. So I wanted to chat to you, Rachel, as well about, so I'm hosting the panel sessions on a Wednesday night, and I have to say that every single one that I do, new questions comes up, new considerations. I'm totally blown away with all the different dimensions and the complexities and the different things to think about. And every time I do it, somebody comes up with a new question or a new angle on it. And it just, for me, it really does cement the fact that how important this is. I mean, it's so important that all this stuff's get discovered. So are you finding that? But also, as your role, you're obviously in a really important role that you'll have the opportunity to take the results and the information and use that when you're looking at what you're doing, your role within community justice. How are you seeing things just snowball that you hadn't potentially considered?
Absolutely. And I think, like, when I first heard Ashley speak about the consultation itself, I didn't realize it was going to be this, I don't know if intense is the correct word, but and I mean that in a good way, and how she's organized it. And I think the question and answer sessions is when I link into the question and answer sessions, and even the information sessions, there's this new question that pops up. I mean, we actually had somebody from an organization that deals with ethnic groups yesterday that spoke about, making the consultation, accessible in sort of different languages. So even that about making things accessible in that way as well. But also a lot of the comments that come up in the Q&As and in the information sessions, it does, 1 minute you're thinking this way and then the next minute you're thinking that way. But I suppose you're right. You said, like, I don't think anybody can make an opinion on whether it's right or wrong for a survivor, because unless you've been through that experience yourself, a negative experience, I'll add, you just don't know. You just don't know how you might feel time. And I suppose they were talking about it last night, that when is the right time that somebody would be ready to go into restorative justice. Well, the answer is nobody knows. Nobody knows, because it's so unique. And I think every small piece of information is learning, for me. And as an expert, as an academic or whoever it might be, I think there's always going to be learning within the field of restorative justice, especially with the survivor platform as well. And what I also think is, this is only the beginning, in my opinion. This consultation will give us essential information, but I think what will come from it is the need for further consultations, and how, if it was to be developed, how would it be developed? So that's my thinking behind it. And the unexpected kind of outcomes that come from the Survivors Voices platform itself. The thing that I think is most important is the fact that Ashley Scotland has actually been able to support a Survivors Voices platform that's actually going to operate out with this consultation itself. And I think that is the best outcome that we know of so far, because that voice will be carried on throughout. You know, it's not just a one-off consultation. Here's the survey, here's the academic report, and that's that. It's about keeping those voices going. So I think Ashley is, you know, the best person to kind of hold that, because she's got fire in her belly. She doesn't beat around the bush, and you know, she does what she says she's going to do, and she supports, you know, she supports survivors from the heart.
Yeah, 100%. I had a live with Ashley earlier on today, and we're talking about that. She has opened the Pandora's box here, and you can't close it. You've given this amazing opportunity to people that they're thriving on it, you know, and yeah, it'll be so interesting. I cannot wait to see what the results of this are, and whatever they come back. And I think it's important to say that as well, isn't it, Rachel, that
Absolutely.
we are not, like, as a team, we're not swaying anybody either way. Our main aim is to share the information and allow people to make their own decision.
Absolutely. And that's it. It's plain and simple. The platform of Survivors' Voices is simply to give an opportunity for people to get to give their voice and to give their opinions on the topic of restorative justice. That is the main aim. You know, it's not, nobody's swaying anybody's opinions. If people want it, fine. If people don't want it, fine. You know, so this is our opportunity to kind of really give these survivors an opportunity to have that heard, and it'll go directly to the Scottish Government stakeholder group. You know, so Ashley and I both sit on that together alongside a number of other like key stakeholders. So it'll be it's going to. I cannot wait to read the report. You know, even the graphics that have been done that are being drawn.
They're amazing, aren't they? They're so good.
I think that's a genius idea as well, to have accessible, you know, graphics that not everybody wants to read. You know, academic reports. I know obviously Dr. Alan Moore is going to be doing the academic report. Not everybody wants. That's not accessible to everybody. You know, so to have graphics as well is just like a genius idea. So yeah.
She really has managed to tick all the boxes with this, hasn't she? She's really thought about it all and developed and allowed it to develop as needed throughout it, which is quite fantastic. So Rachel, I'm not going to keep you much longer, but maybe we'll pop back on in a few weeks as we come to the end. Also, the consultation paper closes on the 28th of March. So again, hence the reason to make as much noise as possible now. We do have a time limit on it. So please have a read, check out all the information on the Instagram feed. And yeah, maybe we can pop on near the end and just see how things have gone in the last few weeks.
Absolutely. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you, Rachel. I'll speak to you soon.